Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you guys so much for being here on this lovely Sunday morning. Happy last day of Comic-Con, everybody. We appreciate you guys spending your Sunday morning with us. Yes, we made it. Yes, fourth day. Woo! Thank you guys so much for being here. We are the volunteers and members of Capes for a Cause. And we are here to talk about adaptive costuming today. We do have a little slideshow presentation to kind of provide a visual aid for everybody. We're just going to chat for a little bit and at the end take some time to answer some of your questions and speak with you guys. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Michelle Foard. I am a cosplayer and I'm also the founder of Capes for a Cause. We are a nonprofit organization and we build custom adaptive costumes for children with developmental as well as physical disabilities. We were sort of born post-pandemic out of a need for more opportunities to give back to the community in terms of cosplay. Pre-pandemic, we had the lovely opportunity of doing hospital visits to children's hospitals, and then of course when COVID hit, all of that kind of got put on pause. And we were all sort of chatting with each other. I know I messaged Marc and I said, how can we give back? How can we volunteer? And there was just a lack of opportunities, to be honest. And so we said, let's find another way to give back. It doesn't interfere, with the pandemic and doesn't put everyone's health at risk, So we thought, let's put our build skills to use and start building costumes. So that's what we started doing. We are a pretty new organization. We've only been around for about a year. These are some pictures of us doing our very first build. And we were building a wheelchair build, so it was actually a fire truck, which you'll see here in a second, around a wheelchair for a little boy named Anthony. He's 5 years old and he has cerebral palsy, so he was our first recipient. And we were learning together and trying to figure it out, talking a lot about how we can adapt the costume for Anthony's needs and what it is that he needs in order to be able to have his dream costume. One of the most important aspects, I think, of building this costume for Anthony was just communicating with Anthony's family, with his parents, finding out what it is that Anthony needs. He is nonverbal and he is confined to a wheelchair, and so his parents really had to speak for him and tell us, what is it that Anthony struggles with? Is it sound? Does he have sound sensitivity? Was it light sensitivity? And we took that feedback and we used that in our builds in order to help make sure that his costume was comfortable at all times for him. And so that was a pleasure to do. You can see here we built the frame for the fire truck out of PVC pipe, and then the body of the fire truck actually just sits on top of the PVC pipe, so that's able to kind of take on and off easily and quickly. We also built a little fireman's outfit for him. It's a replica turnout jacket for the Yonkers Fire Department, so that was a real pleasure for us. We got to sew that from scratch, incorporating some of the adaptive elements that we're going to talk about a little later, Velcro and things like that. And then we got to do a really big fun reveal event at the Yonkers Firehouse, and some of our volunteers were there as well. It was really amazing. The mayor of Yonkers was there, he spoke. We had Congressman Diaguardi was there as well. We did a raffle, we had food trucks. It was just an amazing experience, and Anthony was presented with a proclamation from the county, and it was just a really special experience. So we've had some really amazing opportunities as an organization to give back to the community so far this year. Another event that we had the opportunity of doing was a children's visit to Elizabeth Seton Children's School in White Plains, which was really fun. You'll recognize some of our volunteers in these pictures. But yeah, we got to actually dress up ourselves and be in cosplay and visit with these special needs kiddos, and that was a really, really special opportunity for us. One other opportunity that we had, we did get to walk on the runway at New York Fashion Week. That was pretty cool. That was for Cosplay Runway, and Anthony got the opportunity to walk on the runway as well. Just some really, really cool stuff. We have a lot of people in this community who are supporting us and behind us and want to learn more about how to build adaptive costumes. So it's really, really special for us, and we're really excited to be here. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit today about adaptive like what's on the market right now in terms of retail, what you can buy and things like that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some tips for how to adapt just a cosplay costume for those who have special needs or disabilities, and what you can do to make your costumes more comfortable, easier to get in and out of, and things like that. So I'm going to let each of these guys talk for a bit. I'm here today with Marc, Jake, Rebecca, Aileen, and Renee, and everyone's going to introduce themselves as we go along. Yes. And then, of course, keep your questions in mind, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. We are also so blessed to be joined today by Rashaad Santiago and Rick Prince. They actually built our second costume for our Make-A-Wish child, Elijah, who's here. They're in his Vecna costume. Elijah was selected by the Make-A-Wish Foundation for the Missouri-Kansas chapter, and his ultimate wish in life was to come to New York Comic-Con, and Make-A-Wish granted that for him today, and they're here as well represented. So big round of applause for Make-A-Wish. I was lucky enough to get in contact with Elijah's mom through a Facebook group for New York Comic-Con and Cosplay, and I chatted with Allie, and I said to her, what does Elijah want to be more than anything in the world? And she said, Vecna, and I said, oh gosh, how do we make this happen? And we chatted for a bit, and she mentioned that she wanted it to be really, really special and something that you couldn't buy out of the box, And I said, it's great. Let me try to find someone. Let me put our skills to good use. And so I was lucky enough to reach out to Rashaad, and he responded. And it's just been a complete pleasure and absolute joy working with you two. These guys are completely responsible for Elijah's costume, and so at the end, we're going to bring them up. We're going to talk a bit about the conversation that they had with Allie and how they built Elijah's costume, and then you guys are going to get to meet Elijah, so that'll be at the very end. Again, thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over to Jake, and he's going to talk a little bit about adaptive costumes and what you can find on the market right now.
How are you doing, everyone? Nice to see you all here. So, I'm Jake, as already you have met. So, adaptive cosplay wasn't even really around up until 2014. Even if you go online now, if you go on Amazon, you type in adaptive cosplay, even adaptive costume, you will see very, very limited options. The prices range from $25 to $35. Places like Target, they launched the first line. But on Amazon now, I went on this week looking for stuff. I'm like, okay, let me see what actually is still on the market today, because this was a couple years ago, so there should be more, you would think. But there's really not. There's a very lack of options on the market. And this is where places like Capes for a Cause come into play, because you can't find stuff like this. I actually have a couple of reviews from places. So one was a zombie princess outfit, and the review says, if you only knew how much this means to the kid and parents, my daughter was beyond happy. Nothing about the outfit, but just what it means to the family. Another one was just, I love it, this is so cute, they can't wait for Halloween. My child's going to have their first Halloween, able outside. A couple of more reviews. Another one, bought this costume for my daughter who uses a wheelchair. The costume was very well made. Dress isn't flimsy at all, easy to get on and off, which is a very big deal. Paired it with the long sleeve pink shirt and pink leggings, headpiece makes the whole costume. An elastic band that has Velcro in the back, sizing was spot on, highly recommend this costume. There were very limited reviews on the costumes, which is also not helpful, because you're already in a limited market. So the reviews are very important, and the pictures help, but I think when people write another one, they spoke about the material, and since costumes are never stretchy material, I'm okay with that she can wear it for a while and she loves it. Able to actually feel comfortable in the costume. Material, which we'll get to later, it matters a lot. Fabrics and just being able to have it on your skin. We'll have people explain later on. So nowadays, the only places to really find them are the big retailers. Disney, Walmart, Target, Party City, Halloween costumes, and again, I can't express how limited the options are. That was my biggest pullback from the research that I was doing, just to see like that there wasn't really anything for me to even find reviews. Maybe 5 reviews on 20 costumes. And it's not conducive to, you know, making more that, okay, this is gonna work for everyone, because everyone's needs are so different. And they don't target people's direct needs. They just target the masses, and when they figure, okay, this will be cool, you can just put a cardboard outfit on. The kids don't wanna wear that, you know? I wouldn't wanna wear that, I wouldn't blame them. So this is where places like Cakes for a Cause organizations, where you're able to customize, is really important, and I can't stress how important it is to have things like this going on now. This is the future. It's not gonna be what you find online. They're only gonna learn by learning from us, which is,
I'm gonna pass it over to Aileen. So she's gonna talk a little bit about sensory processing disorder and what it's like to be a cosplayer with a disability.
Hi, my name is Aileen. People know me as Mom the Cosplayer in this community. It's not many people realize this, but I'm actually legally blind. I'm a visually disabled adult. I have 26 years experience as a public school English teacher, and I have accommodations that run under the law, the ADA, Americans with Disability Act, that make my life a lot easier at work. But when we look at adaptive cosplay, we look at what we have available in inclusivity for people with disabilities, it's not something that is very wide-reaching. When you have children, young adults and older adults with certain sensory disabilities, it's not very obvious. You know, we talk about cosplays for children and adults who are in wheelchairs, but then you have people with sensory disabilities, which is not easily recognizable. How do we handle, and just like what I have, a visual disability that people don't realize upon looking at me, and I have had people say, you don't look disabled. Well, I didn't know disabled had a face, you know? But, when we talk about people with autism and people with ADHD and ADD, we're a community that is very open to everyone. And so when we have these, cosplays and situations in which, we don't have the ability to help everyone, it's kind of sad. So, when we talk about adaptive cosplay, materials are a huge product of, dealing with a disability. Some people cannot, they're very touch sensitive. And when you're designing cosplays or materials for people with sensory, lights, sounds, touch, tactile, that affects someone's experience at a convention. It affects their experience in the cosplay, and it affects everything. For me, as I'm creating my cosplay, I can't sew, I can't see the needle, I struggle with that, and so we find different ways. Velcro, snaps, hot glue gun is an amazing, tool. It's better than sewing sometimes for me. And so we adapt our materials. And when you're creating a cosplay for someone with a disability, communication is key. Talking about what makes you comfortable, what will make it easier. I actually have a student who is an amputee, and she lost her dominant right hand to cancer. She's only 14. And she lost it when she was in 6th grade. She told me the other day, I want to cosplay, but many of the cosplays are difficult for me to put together. And so we need designs for people who are, who are amputees, for people who are in wheelchairs, that they don't have to rely on other people to put it on them. What do we have out there? And that's why, when Michelle began this journey, I never thought about these things. I never thought about what we needed to do and the communication. The amount of time that she spends speaking with the parents about the disability, about what can we do in order to make it functioning, so that the independence is there. The comfort factor is there for someone with a disability or a sensory processing disability, that it's not too overwhelming and it's not too much, because the whole point is joy. What fun is it? We already get frustrated when we put on our cosplays, but imagine if every single minute of trying to find a cosplay, trying to put on the cosplay, feeling comfortable in it, and maneuvering around is a constant struggle. It takes away all joy. And I think that's the goal, is to bring back joy for those who have been overlooked.
Thank you, Aileen. Now we're going to talk a little bit about how to build sensory-friendly and adaptive costumes. And so I'm going to let Rebecca talk a little bit about fabrics and closures and the construction of the costume and what you can do to make some changes to your costume.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Hi, my name is Rebecca. You can also find me on Instagram as Rebs de la Disco, cosplayer from New York, and I'm excited to be here to talk to you guys a little bit about how to make your cosplays a little bit more sensory friendly, whether it's for yourself, whether it's for your friend, your child, parent, who knows, right? So I'm gonna actually pass around some swatches. One of our delightful audience members here has those right here in her hand. Mood Fabrics was kind enough to send me swatches for our panel today. They actually have an entire article on their blog that speaks about sensory-friendly fabrics that they have right at Mood. So if you're based in New York or if you want to shop online, you can absolutely check that article out. It's very informative, it's really helpful to read, and you might find something really great there. So those swatches should be coming around very soon. So let's talk first about natural fibers. So fibers such as cotton, linen, and bamboo are some of the most reliable sources of sensory-friendly fabrics. They are naturally breathable and insulating, allowing for a more relaxing wear. So ultimately, at the end of the day, like we've all said, your comfort is key. Whether you have a specific sensory processing disorder, or you might just not like how something feels. If it doesn't feel right, you're not going to have fun wearing it. And that's kind of the thing to kind of keep in mind, right? So I even say something like a fleece fabric or just a nice knit, something that you can move easily in, is very important to be able to wear, to feel comfortable in. So think soft and stretch. So like I just said, fleece, jersey, and terry knits all provide a calming, fleecy feel plus warmth. Choose fabrics that incorporate spandex for easier range of motion. I will also say things that have spandex often give that compression that sometimes children or individuals with autism or other sensory processing disorder need. I know that I feel that when I have something on that's a little tighter feeling, I feel a little bit more secure myself. And it just provides that kind of calming effect that you may need. So spandex all the way is really great. Now, if you don't like that feeling, of being compressed and whatnot, that might not be the thing for you. You might want to try something that's a little bit more loose fitting, not as tight on your body. That's completely fine. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the comfort is really the goal here. So many store-bought costumes and fabrics can have a weird smell to them. We've all experienced that, I think, right? You take something out of the bag from Amazon and you're like, oh, that's very bizarre. Yeah, exactly. So they can have a weird smell, or they may have stiff, scratchy textures. Giving them a wash is a way to soften up the fabrics, remove funky odors, and make them more tolerable to kids with sensory issues. I'll also say, I'm sure many of you are aware of this, but there are detergents that are made that are free of dyes, that are free of any kind of agent that may be sensitive, may make it more sensitive to people with smelling problems or whatnot, or even if you just don't tolerate perfume well, or don't want those scents or dyes on your body, like the free and clean detergents, I use them myself and they're very great. And again, those swatches are coming around. You can feel some of them have flat backs. They might feel a little bit scratchy to you, but the flat back of them means that you can wear some kind of shirt or leggings underneath it that will provide you with a nice soft barrier against your skin. That can really help make that better. So now we're going to talk a little bit about more about enclosures, right? So, some stuff that you can opt for right off the bat. You're going to opt for elastic, Velcro, magnets, and ties. I can tell you right now on my costume that I have on, I have elastic, I have Velcro, I have magnets.
So it's all on there, right? Avoiding buttons, avoiding zippers, snaps, hooks, anything that requires that fine motor can sometimes be very difficult for people. I know this morning I was trying to use a safety pin and just trying to get that pinned in. It was really difficult for me. A magnet would have been that much more simple. Obviously, this requires a little bit of pre-planning, so just kind of factor that in, I would say. Sometimes last minute it's a little bit more difficult, but that's when something like Velcro, you just slap that on there with some hot glue, and you're good to go. So if your child gets overwhelmed from wearing their costume, they'll want a quick way to escape from it, right? Or if your child has toileting needs where they need to be able to get out of the costume quickly, something like a magnet, I would say, is really, really helpful, or Velcro, like what Ben is talking about. Okay, just a couple quick notes about seams and tags. I would recommend, if you can get tagless clothing, especially if you're sensitive toward tags, you can find a lot of tagless clothing at many major retailers at this point, which is awesome. Many stores have just gone tagless because it's more comfortable for everybody and less work that they have to do, so that's great. But as far as seams goes, you can use a flat, filled, or French seam to eliminate raw fabric edges and reduce friction on sensitive skin. And like I said, there are a lot of companies out there that make regular clothing like that you can then modify into a cosplay from there. And just cut the tags out. If you have a t-shirt that you love how it feels but that tag is annoying you, cut the tag out. Don't worry about that at all. Chances are you're going to know, it's yours and whatnot, or just write your initial in the back with a, fabric safe marker or something like that, and you should be good to go. Thank you. Marc Kandel speak for a little bit. He actually has an example of an adaptive costume that he made for his son, so that's really cool. We're going to talk a little bit about construction, props, accessories, masks, and wigs.
Hi everybody. My name is Marc Kandel. I thought I'd go with a little subtlety today. This is my brother-in-law Brian. He's also my handler. Cosplayers, always thank your handlers. Without them, you will die. So, one of my sons is on the spectrum, and he loves the idea of cosplay, loved the idea of Halloween. It was a very exciting thing for him. But, conceptually to him, it's also very overwhelming. The idea of it was great. Putting it in concrete terms, especially the night of, when he's worried about being the first to somebody's door in the candy and what have you, and wearing the costume, all of a sudden, he would just tone out. He'd pretty much piggyback on my wife and say, tonight my costume is a sweatshirt. I thought that was actually pretty good. My wife, after about an hour, not so much. But over time, I started to learn, and because I was already, cosplaying by then, and it helped me become a better cosplayer because we started to learn how to simplify. I would do a usual arm piece like this when I first started. Velcro and elastic are your friends, and they're great materials here, but the more you don't have to fidget and adjust, whether you're the wearer or whether you're the person strapping somebody in. And keep in mind, some of this hits on the sensory costuming, and some of this hits on the physical challenge costume. A tearaway outfit with the Velcro and elastic can be very helpful, especially if someone is in a chair and you need a way to put them in that doesn't affect the mobility of the chair. There's also the aesthetic issue. If you want a movie-accurate costume, sometimes you have to sacrifice those aesthetics for the utility of it. So my son fell in love with Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. And I said, all right, well this year we're gonna give it a shot. So I took one of my old work shirts, probably from the 1990s when you could wear a black plain shirt, no patterns on it. I was never a good style guy, but it turns out well for recycling. And what we did was simplify. So at this point, I made all my arms, everything, it's all slip-on. There's not a lot of strap here. But there are, down the side of my costume here, backpack clips with nylon straps. You put this on like a backpack. But the torso, you just slip over your head. So I'm a big fan of quickly slipping things on. In the case of the Headless Horseman here, if you want to tip that down, Brian, see there's the stump. Want to get it, you want to pick maybe one feature to really emphasize. If you have to worry about utility versus aesthetics, Go with one big wow feature, and then make the costume very wearable. So in this case, you literally just put this over your head. There's no moving parts here. There are cutout sleeves if you want, but you can pretty much just pop it on. That's it. So for my son, even that we wanted to make sure was not overwhelming. Try on your costumes. Talk about the costume. Set expectations. So my son's sightlines was a thing. Also, he was worried about how he's going to eat his candy. And yeah, I know we're coming at this from a Halloween-centric angle, but Halloween's the first step to cosplay, let's face it. You know, shelf paper. Shelf paper is a great, cheap, effective way. It comes in all sorts of colors. And for those of you, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and shelf papers and stuff and put in your shelves to make sure when you take one plate out, you don't bring the whole flatware set down. So it's a nice, soft, textured material that's porous. You can really see out of it. Your vision's not really affected very much even at night. And with cosplayers, we want to hide all that stuff. But sometimes, again, you have to adapt utility so that the person inside is safe and they have an easy out. You need an exit strategy for these costumes. In this case, it's just pulling it off. So I would tell my son, you need an out, you just raise your hand, have a signal, that comes off. And I added a mouthpiece here that's held in with Velcro, so that if he wants a treat, he can just unhook that mouthpiece, pop that in, hit in the next house. All right? He's not missing out on anything, and that's a big sensory thing. We don't want to miss out. It's a lot. So as we pare down those issues, he becomes more comfortable with the idea of putting it on and joining the fun. Because again, there's the physical part of putting the costume on, and there's that mental part of what am I not going to be able to do? And I found that the more I told him about what we can do here and how safe he is, I can see, he can eat, he can breathe, he can take it right off. The knowledge that he could get right out of it was all he really needed to know. And he's worn this 2 years straight. He just took it to Legoland, one scariest costume. And now he wants me to make him an Edward Scissorhands between now and Halloween. Holy moly. But my point is, talk about it with your subject. And you know what? Make it easy with your subject, because if they're nonverbal, you need to see the cues and get them right out. You know, when Anthony was there at Cosplay Runway, one of my concerns I talked about with the showrunners, I'm like, he's got to be backstage. Now, in the entertainment business, that's a lot of hurry up and wait. And I said, we need to get Anthony out early on. We got this little boy who's back there. Maybe he's got a parent with him. He's going to be in the dark. He's nonverbal, so you have to be able to see his cues. If he's worried or anxious or just wants to get out of there, don't keep him waiting. Get the show on the road. So keep that in mind when you're putting this stuff together. It's simple stuff. The materials are lightweight. I bolstered up the shoulders here with regular upholstery foam from your couch. You got an old cushion? Keep that stuff. This is craft foam up here. A little hot glue makes kind of the oogie little decay stuff, you know. And it's very simple. And this is just an old Dracula cape from an older costume. Again, we're not going movie quality. We can, but first you want to get the utility in there. You want them feeling good about the costume. You want them feeling safe. And you'll be a better cosplayer for it too, because you're going to learn tips and tricks that are going to get you in and out of your cosplays, and you're going to help everybody who needs a little extra help to get playing. Because really, that's what it's all about. The costume part's nice, but the other half of the word is play, and I want to get everybody playing. All right, I've talked enough.
Make sure that you have an opening in the rear for wheelchair-friendly wear, for your leg circumference, all that good stuff. If there's a G-tube needed or an insulin pump, having a flap opening for tube access, which Marc kind of talked a little bit about. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Brian's a good example.
Brian cosplayed Thursday and yesterday, and he was the Scarlet Spider yesterday, and he has an adaptive cosplay for his insulin pump. He's built that in where that's not going to, he can walk around unfettered, everything is where it needs to be accessible, and he's good to go. So yeah, and remember, everything we're saying here, it's not the final word. We go out the pros here, they're going to say, no, this is adaptive cosplay, it's also an adaptive process, it's not over. We're going to figure out how to build a better toaster. you know? So this is a starting point where we're learning here. We want to hear from everybody who has the experiences on what they need to know.
And we talked a little bit about it already, but of course accessories and props are a big part of cosplay. We know that a lot of props light up, a lot of props make sound, and so you want to figure out if that's going to be too overwhelming for your cosplayer or your kiddo before you incorporate those accessories. Also things like neckwear, capes, wigs, they can all be kind of scratchy, uncomfortable, provide too much pressure, too much compression. So again, test that out, before you take it to a con or take it to Halloween. And then of course, also, the other thing about accessories and props is they can actually provide a good costume in and of themselves. So if your cosplayer's having trouble wearing something, just holding a prop or an actual accessory by itself can also provide a bit of a costume in and of itself. So it can play both ways in terms of the usability of accessories. And last but not least, masks. Of course, we all know that masks can be uncomfortable sometimes for anyone, of course. They can impede our vision and maybe have a strange smell. We always want to make sure, of course, they're going to talk about this a little later, Rick and Rashaad, but with Elijah, we wanted to make sure he was getting enough oxygen intake. That's really important when wearing a mask. So, again, just always be sure to try it out. If your cosplayer can't take a mask, try face paint. Try something different, a different way to kind of dress up rather than wearing a mask. So there's alternatives to that. So, and of course, makeup as well can feel slimy and itchy at the end of the day. So again, always try it out before you head out to an event. And actually, having said that, I'm going to let Renee talk a little bit about tips for how to handle the overwhelming amount of sort of sensory processing that comes at us when we're at these conventions. I know that, for anybody, this can be completely overwhelming. There's tons of people, there's tons of noises and lights and costumes, whether it's here at cons or at Halloween. So it's important to sort of think about some tips and some different things that you can do heading into these events. So here's Renee.
Hi, I'm Renee. Connect with me on social media as codename Citadel. I am open to any and all conversations, especially about this. So these tips that Michelle has pulled together, certainly good for certain situations, but I think they're in general good tips to any cosplayer. I could certainly personally be better about following these rules to help my cons be more comfortable and easy. The first one is let your child help select the cosplay costume. That's really kind of the start of this organization with Michelle, is not letting a disability pigeonhole you into the options that are available. We want to start with, what is your dream? What would you be if you could be anything? Let's start there and figure out a way to do it. So certainly having that personal ownership of it and knowing it's a character or animal, whatever it is that they want to be, that's going to make them feel comfortable and secure. Having your cosplayer try the costume on a few times around the house before an event in Halloween. Again, personally, I should be doing this more often. But it helps you understand, is it going to be too hot, too cold, too itchy? Is it, easy to step on and rip? Is it, having those test sessions will really help inform how the actual event or day is going to go, and give yourself time to edit the week before, the month before. Keep having those test runs so you know day of, all you have to worry about is having a good time. Number 3, give your child sensory breaks, or you can incorporate stimming or fidgeting elements into their cosplay. I have certain friends that they love to be in the chaos. They love to, touching things and have props they can play with and things that light up. Yeah. And then I have other friends that the first question they asked me when they got to New York Comic Con was, where's the quiet room? For everybody, just for your knowledge, New York Comic Con does have a quiet room. It's a fantastic thing. It's downstairs on the lower level, all the way on the other end, so pretty much opposite to where we are now. But there's rules. You have to be quiet in there. It's a place for people that are, feeling overwhelmed or just want some peace and quiet to kind of come back to neutral, and then they can go back and enjoy the rest of their con. Super important, super helpful. But yeah, if you're on the other side and you want things to play with, maybe you want a lot of props and electronics, we can help you with all those things. Don't force your child to wear something they are not comfortable in. I think any caring parent would never do this, but I think about, cosplayers when they're trying to put a group together and there's only certain characters and they're like, well, you're going to be this. If there's any pushback at all, whether it's something physical about the costume or maybe something mental about the character, don't push the issue. Don't be like, well, we need this. We need you to wear this. You're not in their body. You don't know what they're feeling physically or mentally. If there's any pushback to a costume, please let them talk to you about it or give them another option. Prepare your cosplayer for events for Halloween in advance with visual calendars. This can also go back to the test run phase, like, hey, we're going to New York Comic Con a month from today. Hey, we're going to New York Comic Con next week. Hey, it's 3 days, it's going to be tomorrow. Are you excited? Are you scared? Let's talk about it. So that you're getting those conversations out of the way. And again, the goal is day of to just enjoy it, to not have to worry about anything physical. Number 6, travel or explore in small groups. I know this is really helpful for a lot of my friends to know, like, hey, I'm walking around if you want to walk around, buddy. Like, if you're just walking the floor and you want somebody with you, or, hey, I'm going to a shoot or I'm going to a panel and I don't know anybody there. I really want, the security of somebody I can trust. Also somebody that's aware of any, conditions or issues that I have. So they know, like, hey, do you want to take a break? Or do you want to eat something? Do you need a break? I carry around air conditioning and heaters in my bags, and every day they get used by somebody that needs air, needs heat, needs, safety pins and things like that. But to know the people around you and what their sensitivities are is really helpful. And the last tip we have on here is have an alternative activity planned. I think as any human being, had expectations in your mind of how a day or an event's going to go, and sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes you get there and, something sets you off or something sets a friend off and you realize, we can just have just as much fun if we go and do something else. Whether that means wearing the costume somewhere else and doing something else, or taking the costume off and just enjoying the day without it. So be aware of it, be open, be a safe space for that communication so that you can easily pivot if you need to. And again, I just want to stress that everybody up here, everybody that's involved with the organization, we are well aware that we are not the experts. I think we are all on the same page that this is going to be a consistent learning process forever. We do not claim to know everything. We don't know what we don't know yet. So our goal is simply to help provide the tools and solution-oriented attitude towards any project, know our limitations, and bring in other experts in other fields when they're certainly better suited to handle those projects. But really, our goal is to start with the dream. What do you want to be? Let's start from there, not just out of the options that you found online, but if you can be anything, dream, safety, comfort, ultimately enjoyment. We want to turn whatever that dream is into you actually enjoying yourself as that character. And as my colleagues have mentioned, we really lean on the individual families and candidates we work with to guide us in terms of their physical and mental needs and wants. So please, if there's anybody out there that has tips they've learned along the way or has a friend with questions or tips, we welcome those conversations. Our goal here is to connect with people, to resources that have better information and ideas with us. Or also if you know somebody that would be interested in, a child in receiving a costume that maybe is looking for something that they can't find out there. So please connect with us after the panel. We'll hang out here. Love to talk to you.
Awesome, thanks Renee. Guys, real quick before we open up the floor, as I mentioned before, we've talked a little bit about retail costumes. You can buy them out of the box, $29.99, but the benefit of having a custom-built costume and working with Case for a Cause is the conversations we can have. We can custom-build, we can adapt, we can literally make your needs a part of the costume and make sure that it's perfect for you. And so having said that, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Rick and Rashaad and have them speak a little bit about how they spoke with Allie, Elijah's mom, and how they actually went through the process of building this costume for Elijah. And do you want to maybe let them over here first? We're going to... Sure, yeah. There we go. You guys want to come up? Yeah, sure.
adaptive seating arrangements. Hello everyone, my name is Rick Prince. This is Rashaad Santiago. And this is our miniature Vecna that we did here. This was a lot of fun. It was an interesting for Elijah. None of these suits that we design in our world are easy to wear. We've worn quadrupedal where we're on all fours. We wear full body appliances. So when we got the call, actually Rashaad got the call, he called me. We had to think long and hard about how we were going to adapt a foam latex bodysuit off of an adult male that's 6 feet down to a child that is Elijah's dimensions. So it was a challenge, not only that, but to make it easy for Mom and Elijah, specifically Elijah. And when we talked about smells, our industry is full of them. A lot of people say foam latex smells like a cat or ammonia or whatever, so we offset that with baby powder, which was something Elijah really, not like the baby dust. So we try to get all that smell, all those things out of there so that it's neutral and comfortable. And that's the main thing. So this started with a bodysuit, a morph suit that you would get normally. Zipper up the back, one single little small zipper that is usually kind of awkward and will sometimes just open up on its own. So one of our first considerations was to remove or modify that. So we went and got some industrial zippers that are more for backpacks and things with big plastic wing teeth. And we introduced 2 of those, one to each side. That way you get one side or the other side, and you can just open up the whole back because the entire suit is enclosed. So it's a little heater that you wear on your entire body. So the only real way you can get is you open up and get some core. So you open up your back and you bring down your spine. That's a big industry tip. If you can put a little cool pack on the back of your neck or down your back, that will really help cool your core system down fast. So I want Rashaad to talk a little bit about some of the extra designs that we did in making the mask work, sectioning off the adult body, and getting it downscaled. Because this was all done from Rashaad's shop right down the road in Batavia, about 6 hours.
Whenever we're attacking costuming or characters, it's always a matter of how are we going to make it work for our subject. And in this case, as Rick mentioned, our subject is about half the size of what we actually built it for. So the head that Elijah is wearing, we left it the size for an adult to give Elijah more room to see and breathe. Because when you have foam latex prosthetic, it can be quite tight on your face, obviously. And we didn't want that with Elijah. We wanted him to have that freedom to be able to move. And sectioning off the body that was, again, made for a man down to the size of Elijah. So Mom was very kind enough to send Elijah's measurements to us in my studio. And we just kind of figured out where his knee would fall, where his hip was, and then kind of sectioned everything off to fit. We didn't have a mannequin to build it on, so we kind of made a duct tape dummy version and kind of stuffed it in the morph suit that is actually underneath the foam latex. So it would fit him like a glove. We had a really fun time trying to figure that out. I know we kind of stood around the studio and just kind of looked at it for, how we were going to make it work, and we came up with a couple of different ways that we thought it would work, and ultimately this was the best way to go.
And it's close, it's not exact, and like we all talked about and have heard the rest of the panelists discuss, it's an ongoing thing. So there are things that we can continue to do to Elijah's costume now that he's worn it for 2 days to make it better, easier to get on and off. The head, while it is big, it was a little roomy, so we tried to tighten it up, so we folded it and glued it so it would be a little tighter, but from the back, so it might push his face, so his openings would be through those openings, but that wound up being uncomfortable, so we undid that. We would probably put an open Velcro system for that head piece for later on, but a lot of this stuff you have to learn, you have to see, you have to communicate. So that was the whole process, back and forth. How is this? How is that? Will it work? between us as creators and with the family and Elijah specifically.
Yeah, he had a test fit when we first got here on Thursday.
And Thursday morning at like 1 o'clock, we did a lot of cutting. We cut some of the back off. We introduced a couple of extra buckles. And we can show you some of these things later on if Elijah wants to stand and give us a little turnaround. We'll show you kind of the things that worked and some of the things that didn't.
Yeah, if there's any...
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Here.
Thank you. For those that aren't familiar, Rick and Rashaad were actually featured on the sci-fi reality show Face Off. And so I listed their social media there on the screen. So please be sure to give them a follow and check out their work. Absolutely fantastic artists. And we are so blessed to have them a part of our organization and to have them here today. So let's give them a huge round of applause. Rashaad is also joined by his family here as well. So that's a really, really big treat. Thank you guys for joining us. And of course, we have Elijah's mom, Allie, and Elijah's joined by his family as well. So thank them for traveling so far. We are just so blessed to be able to spend the weekend with them. It's been an absolute joy getting to watch their faces in the showroom and see people's reactions to the costumes. So just such a huge pleasure. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to you guys. Do you guys have any questions for us or even any tips or any stories to share of anything that you've encountered as a cosplayer or a convention goer? Yes, yeah, you can come on up to the mic here in the middle, yeah.
Hi, so I'm autistic and I love like armor builds, but obviously they're very uncomfortable to walk around in. I've used EVA foam in the past. Do you guys have any alternatives like Worbla that you find more comfortable, or is EVA foam comfortable for you?
We have used Worbla. We tend to steer away from that for convention purposes unless you're always going to be around air conditioning environments. If you're in a hot car, you're having to leave your equipment in the trunk, the heat will get to it and it will be a different shape, if not one big flat pile. So be very careful in high temperatures with Worbla. If you're not, it's great stuff. It's easy to work with as a craft side, but we do use a lot of EVA foam. And they have different thicknesses that you can use. Always start small and add on so that your smaller is always more thin and more flexible.
Renee's going to speak to this.
I would add to that, it doesn't all have to be one material. You could use, I have a lot of things that are foam in the front or Worbla in the front, but elastic on the sides or Velcro in the back. So if I want a little breathing room or I want it to be more form-fitting, I can adjust it throughout the day. Happy to talk offline if you want to look through kind of pictures and things like that, but there's always ways to adjust things during the day if you're using different materials.
Another good solution, this is sort of like a new thing that I've kind of noticed lately. A lot of people are taking their spandex suits, their morph suits, and instead of building like foam armor, they're just outlining things like in puff paint. That's a really good alternative to give the spandex suit some dimension, and you won't even be able to feel it. It won't be restricted whatsoever, but it'll make it look more professional. I know Renee did a little bit. It pops a little bit more.
I will say too, if you look at the really shiny material that my suit is made of, I feel like if you glued this directly onto like a morph suit or something like that, it would give that really metallic look without the bulk of having the foam on. Obviously this is foam, but this is just like a very shiny chrome vinyl. I got it online somewhere and I was able to cut it out and just kind of glue it onto, again, I have foam on, but I think that if you glued this onto a morph suit with the puff paint as well, that would really make for a standout effect because of how much it reflects the light.
I would also say, to get it up against your skin, but if you still want the heft of the armor, the EVA foams, that's primarily what this is, but it's light, it's flexible, so I can move around in it. I also attach things with elastic. Each of these muscles is individualized and attached with elastic in between, so I can bend and turn, and I don't have like a little turtle shell that I'm going around in all day. But if you want to make it even lighter, you can get a bodysuit and you can carve upholstery foam into the muscles, glue those onto the fabric with some fabric glue, and then if you want, You can even get a very light craft foam, not even EVA foam, just the sheets of craft foam, spray a little spray adhesive and skin the suit. Because what you want the foam for is you want it to take that shiny paint at the end of it, which you can't really do unless you coat the upholstery foam in a latex or you put the foam over. So there's a couple different ways to go about it that'll keep it comfy and still get you the look that you're looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I did have one tip for wigs. I get a wig headband off.
Real close.
I get a wig headband off Amazon. It's like a fabric material, so I don't have to use any hairpins or anything like that. I just put it on like a helmet, and that really helps me with my like sensory input on my head and actually putting the wig on.
That's a great tip. Thank you. Yeah, avoiding pins and bobby pins. That's always a good tip. Hi there. Welcome.
Hi. First, I just want to say that I love what you're doing. This is awesome. My question is, is there a way that to get involved with your organization?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why don't you just come on up and speak with us afterwards. Yeah, we're always looking for volunteers and recipients. So yes, please, yeah, come chat with us after.
First of all, not to be too close.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you guys for building this project for us people on the spectrum. I don't really have any questions. I have to say this from my experience for making cosplays for like I think since 2016. It doesn't matter what spectrum you are, especially if you're a beginner. It doesn't matter what your age you are or how slow the process is. It's all about experience and having fun. So if you want to get a project, do it. I recommend you. And honestly, autism is the best thing. How do I say that? Because my autism, I notice the small little details in with feeling things. If you have that and you use that for your skills, like doesn't matter what skill, doesn't mean cosplay. That's an improvement on how you become and improve and become amazing cosplayers as you see in New York Comic Con 2022 today. So that's all I have to say, and I want to say thank you all again, and you all enjoy the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey there. Hi, friend. Well, I have one question. So we talked about how we can make costumes more adaptive, but how do you think we can make conventions? Because I know even my little brother, he loves comics, loves anime, and he's so overwhelmed. And he doesn't have any disabilities. So I'm wondering, what do you think we can do? Because I noticed, like, even if someone with anxiety or a health problem, you get really overwhelmed. And there's a time where you panic, and it's like, where do you go? Then you go outside, or you have an anxiety attack, and you can ruin your whole convention. So what do you think we should do overall to make changes, to make it more family-friendly at conventions?
So I am a big proponent for speaking up and getting to the top, and I think more people need to write to ReadPop, to New York Comic Con, to newspapers, to periodicals, to whenever they have an opportunity to be on panels, and to also call management and request, just constantly request more quiet rooms. Why is there one quiet room and why is it so inconvenient to go through? I have not seen one sign here that says we have a quiet room. There has to be more, people need to speak up, people need to request the squeaky wheel against the oil. If you're attending a convention, call ahead and ask them or email them or tweet it out and say, where are your quiet rooms? Where are your safe spaces? Where are accessibility? Where are the elevators? And the more people say, the more they speak up, the more conventions and companies will pick up and say, okay, maybe we need to make this more accessible and also more out there, because honestly, to have one quiet room in a Javits Center and having it in an area that not many people know about is inconceivable. So I think we need to make this happen. We need to speak up and we need to say something and demand it, not request it, but demand it.
I want to add something to that too. So yesterday, a very specific example, I had a wasp suit on that was, fingertips to toes. Once it's zipped up, I can't use my phone, I can't. And I started to panic because I had like lights attached to me and there was electrical. And this booth over here, Paladins of Cosplay, give them a wave, Cosplay ER. I went in, they realized I was kind of scared, and I was like, can you cut my hands out of this? They're like, are you sure you want us to cut the suit? I was like, yes, I need my hands out before I like lose it. And they were very calm and helped me out. So knowing where those resources are, yeah, I agree, there should be signs throughout the convention of where the quiet room is. And again, it's on the lower level if anybody needs it, it's lovely. But another resource would be a Cosplay ER station, or just to know where your friends are that know, what your situation is, what your triggers are, and to have them to go to. I carry this bag again that has scissors, air conditioning, just anything that you might need, but knowing where your resources are throughout the day, and I 100% agree with Aileen, we need to be louder about the things that we need as a community.
Obviously, also just come on a Thursday. If you have anxiety and stuff like that, don't come on the Saturday when it's gonna be packed. Come Thursday when you can walk around, buy stuff, and not have 100 people surrounding you at all times. Thursdays and Sundays, yeah, but Thursday's the day.
We have one more question, yeah?
Just more, this is like building on what she was saying. This is just a tip. I'm autistic and ADHD. I've been to the con before, but before I realized that I have some differences. So this time I brought Vibes earplugs and noise canceling headphones. Yes. Amazing difference. It's really awesome. So yeah, definitely a recommendation for anyone on the spectrum or sensory processing differences. Super helpful.
Great tip. Yeah, noise canceling headphones, always helpful. Yes. Honestly, you guys, I've been really encouraged by the amount of adaptive costumes I've seen here at this convention this weekend. I don't know about you guys, but I've seen a lot of wheelchair builds. I've had a lot of conversations with people with autism, and they've spoke to me, they've talked to me about their cosplay. It's really encouraging. As we've talked about, it's new, it's a new industry. It's got a long way to go, but that's why we're here. We're making strides. Yeah, hi there.
Hi, just to add to the headphones thing, if you have headphones on, people won't talk to you.
Yeah, yes.
People will not come up and bother you and be like, oh, buy our stuff. So just have your headphones on. Because nobody knows if you're playing anything.
Yes. Yeah, you're your own best advocate. Do what you need to do for your own mental health and your own.
I want to add a point to that too. Is I have friends that prefer mask cosplays because that gives them some security. Like nobody's looking at me, nobody can interact with me without my step forward first. So I have people that can't stand masks because they feel claustrophobic, but I have a lot of friends that use it as kind of their way to center themselves inside their own little world. So that can be a good tool one way or another.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being with us this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure to spend our time with you. You guys can find us on social media at Capes for a Cause, or you can email info@capesforacause.org if you want to get involved. We'll stick around. We'll answer any questions or chat with you guys. Again, thank you so much. Such a pleasure. Have a great last day of New York Comic Con, everybody. Thank you.
Oh my God.